Yo, what's up, everyone? This is John here with Mike.
Hello.
This is Film Juice, and it's time to talk about Lucas.
Yay, Lucas.
Lucas, Lucas, Lucas.
What was the chant when the football team's working out? Eat meat, eat meat, eat meat. So many, so
Was it?
many. It was. I had the captions on, and yeah, they're just chanting "eat meat" while they're like pumping themselves up. Yeah, great. I haven't seen this movie in a long time.
Same here, dude. It's been, oh man, since I was a young teenager, maybe like 13, probably 14.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember. There was a channel like every Sunday they would play it. They
Is that
would
what
play.
you remember?
That's all I remember of it. Is I would end up watching like the
I
very end.
I remember seeing it like I don't remember when they would show it, but it was at the very least, I know it was at least a yearly thing, like in the summer or something. Like
Yeah,
it was definitely like, oh, they're showing Lucas again, and I want to see that movie. And
yeah. I remember reading the TV guide and I would see like, it would be darker if it was a movie. Like the panel would be darker.
uh-huh, yeah.
And yeah, I'd see that and it would be like Lucas at 2:30. And it would say like Lucas at 6:30. Who's watching Lucas this much every weekend?
I know, right? Just like tearing up every
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 single
hour.
they had to feel something.
And this movie will definitely get your emotions going.
Yeah. I
It
felt the feels.
Yeah, I was trying to think of what kind of category I would put it in. I think Wikipedia puts it in romantic
Coming of
comedy
age.
drama.
I mean, yeah. I mean the comedy is I don't know if you felt this way about the comedy part of it, that it was of course it's dated, but some of the things that were supposed to be funny, I just felt bad about.
Like what?
I mean, a lot of the like the bullying and stuff that was done for like a laugh, but it's at his expense, so you don't
Oh
really.
yeah. No, okay. So yeah, the bullying is definitely um it's not like 13 Reasons Why over the top bullying, like that Netflix special.
Yeah,
But
it's
it
very much it's good old fashioned '80s. Hey, pencil
yeah,
neck, you know.
slam into the locker
Yeah,
or lock in the locker. Um, and there was one that was way over the top, and
the
that I will
shower.
say is yes, in the shower scene, and nothing is shown. But there's this I guess it's like a muscle cream that the
Dude, that
football
made me
players.
cringe.
Yeah. I remember as a kid that made me cringe. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I never want to go to high school," kind of thing.
They're gonna give me the balm.
And so the football players are done with football practice. They go into the shower. Lucas stands up for himself to this bully football player, and the bully gets this muscle kind of balm. Him and his friends hold down Lucas, and he puts it in Lucas's private area. And so
Yeah,
they throw him outside the shower room. So he's outside. He's trying to get back inside. His crush, Carrie Green, who plays Maggie, she approaches him, and so he can't get back inside. And he's naked. He has a towel around him, and he runs out into the field where everyone's you know cheerleaders are practicing, and he sits down on a fountain to get some relief.
yeah,
Uh,
that was. It was just. It felt like I don't know. I felt like it was way too drawn out, and it wasn't painted as being sympathetic towards him. It was like the movie was making fun of him.
I felt it was too a little too over the top as well. I didn't. I thought something like that would be so far that it would be prevented.
Yeah, it would
Kind of
have to be.
thing.
There had to have been. Where was that? The principal that was trying to shield him from all the football stuff.
Right, and the coach
The
as
coach.
well.
I mean, the coach probably would have allowed it, to be honest.
I don't think so, honestly. I mean, in real life, at least, because the
Oh, in
coach
real life,
was
yeah. Oh yeah, they
Yeah,
love.
like in the coach. Yeah, you're right though. In the movie, the coach is just, yeah, just get it over with kind of thing.
Yeah, he honestly does not give a shit about Lucas.
So Lucas is a movie about a young teenage boy named Lucas, and he's a very smart kid. He's in high school. Okay, he's out. They live in the suburb outside Chicago. That's what it
Yeah,
is, and it gives a sense of a small town. It starts off during the summer. He meets a girl named Maggie, and it's kind of like his first love. She's older than him, and he's attracted to her, and so he starts. She's new in town, and he starts hanging out with her, and uh, he's also lying about himself, like how he's a popular kid, and before school starts, and how just kind of trying to puff himself up to her so that she likes him.
right.
And it starts off in that way, and then school starts, and Maggie, she is her name. She starts seeing how Lucas is bullied, and he's also he's she starts basically finding out what Lucas has lied about himself, and at the same time, she's finds herself liking someone else, and Lucas is trying to cope with that.
Yeah,
And
especially
at the
because
same
it's
time, you're also finding out about Lucas too, and how, and it's pretty heartbreaking. I don't know. Would you add anything to that, Mike?
um like it's especially crippling for Lucas because it's Cappy, his best friend, Charlie Sheen, who Maggie ends up getting involved with. That in itself is like, I mean, the kid is being betrayed here and there, but he's also a little younger than them. So you can't help but see him as, yeah, he's very smart, but he's just missing that kind of human understanding, like, the social contract of kind of being able to read the room and knowing how to act appropriately. He's very emotional, and he puts himself out there for Maggie multiple times, and she rejects him in a very nice way every time. But he's not well adjusted, and
Yeah,
you understand why later.
right, and he wants to keep trying, and trying to win her over, and yeah, that's oh yeah, and Lucas is played by the actor Corey Haim.
Corey Haim, yeah, played
Uh,
very well.
very well, right?
Yeah, pretty much everyone in the movie. I thought during the movie, like everyone was giving very earnest performances. Everyone was a little boilerplate 80s movie character, but there's a little more realism to it when it came down to like the character interactions. Maybe not so much the high school stuff, because that was like a John Hughes high school.
Yeah, it was. It did have
What was
that
up with
feel.
that dance? Moonlit on a lake with like lights everywhere.
Oh yeah, that high school
I
dance,
was like,
right?
what the hell? Is it a wedding?
I was like, that's an expensive dance. Shoot.
Yeah.
And this is early performances from a lot of these kids. You also see Winona Ryder's. This is her first appearance in a film, and she did pretty good. She was the hero.
She
Uh,
really is. She's the one that didn't act like a monster at certain points.
who didn't act like a monster? What?
She didn't act like a monster at certain points of the movie. Like everyone else has their outbursts or like this point where they kind of turn a little bit. You see a different side of them. She seems very pure, kind of not naive, but less of like a Holden Caulfield type. The way Lucas comes off of, like calling everyone phony and everyone superficial. She's not very judgmental, and she tries to open up to Lucas and tries to actually be his friend, but he's caught up in his Maggie business. But she did really well
Right.
in that role, as considering how young she was.
Yeah, because her and Lucas and Carrie Green, I think, were all like in that early teenage years.
Yeah.
Uh, Charlie Sheen seemed really older,
Don't get me
like
started on the football players.
and the football players. Yeah, And that's kind of typical. I mean, there's some good
It
and
is.
bads to that. I mean, in
They
some
still do it.
ways they do, right? I think the good is that at least there's not kids like, like too many, because, and this is the sad thing with Corey Haim is that, kids get taken advantage of in different ways in that business. And
Yeah, that's true. And
so at
his
least with the,
his whole life story is pretty tragic about that.
right. And so in some ways with the older actors playing younger, younger high school kids, it's just like, well, at least they're adults.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
I yeah, I remember feeling uh I like the music
I
in the
was gonna
movie.
point that out. Yeah.
I was looking up who the composer was, and Dave Grusson. He did a few movies. He did The Goonies, which is a year in 1985, which is a year before this one. And he did a few others. He was like a lead, or he's been involved in so many different movies. It's pretty cool.
It was a nice.
Selena, he was involved with
Oh,
Selena.
oh, no kidding.
Hope Floats, yeah, and a few others. The Firm. I haven't seen that one, but I know that one has Tom Cruise. Have you seen that one? From
Oh gosh, I saw it like when it came out, so I didn't really understand
oh, okay.
it.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. I don't think I've even seen that one. But those are a few of at least the ones that I went through. Oh yeah, and The Graduate.
He's done some work.
Tootsie. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
It's another one I haven't seen in a very long time, and I'm not sure it would fly today.
Yeah, yeah, it's I gotta say something that really sticks out to me, I think too, is just Lucas's like the way that I guess just his the way he would emote, like his reactions to the different events that in his life, and or I guess with Maggie.
Mhm.
I feel like that was really well representative of a kind of a shy boy,
Yeah,
who
especially a 14-year-old that maybe for the first time having any kind of romantic feelings, and he doesn't know what to make of it. A lot of times in the movie, like you just said, the way he reacts to things, he's very angsty. He's confused and angry at everything, but he isn't a total loner. He does have friends. He's got that obnoxious AV friend,
AB friend.
the
Oh
audiovisual,
yeah. Oh yeah. He's always carrying the
the camera.
camera around.
And then there's was it what's her name? Was it Rena? So yeah, I mean he's not totally socially inept, but
A lot of the
he's
kids think he's weird too because he goes and looks for bugs. That's just one of the things he likes to do. And I guess for kind of being smart as well, they think he's kind of weird for that. And then like you said, his social awkwardness, the way things he not really reading a room or a conversation that
right.
well. And some of that, and then as we find out, is that there's a lot of insecurities he has. And then you start seeing that yeah, that his parents are may also be abusive. And
Yeah, that was a particularly sad thing when he's injured, and they go and Rena's like, yeah, he doesn't live here. He lives at the trailer park. He doesn't live in this John Hughes house. Um, so they go to the trailer park, and she's like, yeah, his dad came to school one time and embarrassed him, and he's an alcoholic. And because Lucas is working, like it's possible he was carrying the entire load for he and his dad.
right, yeah, that was it. All just comes full circle at that point, and that's crazy.
Yeah, and the bug thing, the bug and the tadpoles and whatever else he was picking out of the swamp or whatever lake or whatever that
uh,
was. Um,
in the sewers and stuff.
this
This kid's
everywhere.
everywhere.
He's
Yeah,
got a bird's nest under an overpass. Um,
right. by the train tracks, and
by the train tracks.
thankfully
Uh,
there's no homeless he's run into, or crazy
yeah,
drug addicts he's run into in this little town. Because
he
those are their hiding places, you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, so
I wouldn't make my hiding place somewhere where there's graffiti, but yeah, he's got his bat cave, not literally. And I did find there was a lot of like metaphors and like the stuff he was catching. Like he
I
says
noticed that too.
yeah, the locusts, how they're hatching, and he talks about the when he doesn't go to the dance and he's got the little dragonfly pupa in a bottle, and he's like, yeah, but one day it's going to turn into something beautiful, Rena, something like that. And then
Yeah,
he's carrying around that thing of tadpoles to take to the science teacher. A lot of that, it's just things are growing, things are going through this hatching stage. And I guess it applies to he and Maggie. I mean, pretty much. She's finding her place. She's brand new there, and he's kind of coming out of his shell a bit.
I know those locusts, they come out every 17 years, right?
Yeah, yeah, it was very specific.
And they're kind of like they're like almost hibernating, right? Like they're being prepared for that
Right,
season.
right. Yeah, they're being prepared to be mature.
And so he's finding all these metaphors for his life and in nature, and it's very smart, it's very and it's kind of like being his teacher, because the absence of his parents and
Right.
any older adult figure in his life. It's nice because it also shows. I think part of what he goes through is also a little bit of I mean, it's at the extremes of having that absence of of an adult role model and responsible adult figure in your life, as
Yeah.
a kid, because a lot of things that he does go through, as kids grow up, they do look for these things, naturally, and whether it's in nature or with insects or um, movies or something,
Hmm.
kids obviously, and then finding their first love and going through that heartbreak, and so these are all like, I like how it was all like it all just went into his character of his age, and
Right.
it just all flowed very well together. And yeah, I can't help but think, man, poor kid. Some of the adults, well, actually, all of the adults, like the principal, for instance, the coach. You wonder about these other teachers. Like he's also ridiculed, like in front of the whole school, uh,
Oh,
when
that assembly.
at the assembly. Yeah, and you'd think that would be enough to get one teacher in there to be like, hey, like, I mean, thank God this kid didn't kill himself. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no kidding. Speaking of though, that does become a thing when they start talking about Romeo and Juliet,
oh,
which I guess is kind of like spoilers, I guess. When he goes out for the football team, once he learns that Cappy and Maggie are an item, he goes to the last game, he shows up, just gets into it with the coach, gives the coach a really great talking to.
oh yeah,
Um,
that was great.
he's like, you're just a fucking jock.
And
He's
yeah,
like,
and
well,
so,
who's got the you're a second. What did he say? Like you're like a second rate coach with a third rate team. Who's the pencil
right.
neck now?
Yes, exactly. What do you got to lose? Kind
Yeah,
of
what have you
thing.
got to lose? And yeah, so yeah, Lucas gets severely injured during a no-win scenario for the team anyway. And I kind of felt like he kind of did kill himself. He was that helmet did not fit him. That was like, and he kept taking it
Dude,
off.
I was like, every time
Stop taking it
he
off.
did. And I guess to be fair too, he didn't have, like, he never went to practice. I think he only went to one practice, and he
He
just
went to
shows
the
up to the
one and he
game.
ran into the yeah, and then he just shows up and it's a nice moment. You're still cheering for him. You know the team's gonna lose. It's not even about that. It's just about him doing something for himself instead of trying to prove it to anyone else.
Right. He comes up to that moment to stand up and again and and he chooses to do it, yeah, in the football game and play. And so he does, and you know, he's very funny. He's very like dorky and goofy on the field because he's so small, and every football player is like twice his size.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where he's just like running around, running away from them, and while they're in like scrimmage or timeout or whatever.
Oh yeah,
And
where I think it's Jeremy Piven's character is chasing after him, and it's just like, okay, that's funny.
yeah, that was hilarious. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he ends up playing, and he almost catches the ball.
He, I was so hoping, and I've seen the ending of the movie several times, and every time I keep hoping
Same.
he's gonna catch it,
Yeah, I know. I
and
was like,
it's like
I was
epic
so
fail.
glad. It is an epic. I was so glad I haven't seen it in so many years because I had forgotten. I had like completely forgotten, and I was like, oh man, I think he's gonna actually catch this, and yeah,
He kind of
but
did. He just didn't know how to hold it.
and so his helmet is off
Uh,
at this point, uh and so he gets tackled, and there's a huge just pile on him,
I love
and
that how he hugs the guy's waist like all the way down the field. He's being dragged
oh
without a help,
yes, that's right.
and
You're right. That was a great
finally,
scene.
everyone's cheering for him finally, and it's like, you guys are insane. Somebody stop this.
I know, dude. This is like, and he talks about survival of the fittest and things like that. And this is like survival of the fittest in high school right here to the extreme. And yeah, that was a great scene because you see the little guy just hanging on to this beast of a football player
I'm
trying
guessing
to.
he did all of his own stunts because
I yeah,
when he fell the first time, he grabs his head, and it was still Corey Haim, and it looked like that didn't look like acting.
right.
And then they all just pile on him, and it's like, you guys stop,
I know, it's like it's just a little dude. What are you doing?
just stop the game.
Oh, and then you know what I thought was hilarious, dude? Uh in that last sequence there at the football game, you see the John Hughes and the just that 80s kid who has to be in every 80s movie. You know who I'm talking about?
Like the obnoxious one.
The orange-haired one. I don't even know if he was credited.
Oh yeah, the outtake ginger, or the
Yes. Just like where did he come from?
yeah, he just stands up. He's like, "Do it,
Let's
Lucas! Do it to
go.
Lucas!" It's like, wait, dude, you were
Go.
just making fun of him. Yeah, yeah. No, they have to have that uh that that just that random character to keep going back to for reactions.
But yeah, he just appeared randomly in that last sequence and is like, okay, uh, I guess we got to have him in here.
Yeah.
At least a look, or he was a lookalike. Um,
Oh, could have been.
someone can correct me and if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
The Romeo and Juliet thing, I never actually caught that as a kid. At least I don't remember.
yeah, that's
I
not something I had thought about as a kid. Really, I didn't really know the story.
because he actually does contemplate. You're right. He does contemplate killing himself after he's talking to Rena, and Maggie is just, or yeah, Maggie's just ditched him from the dance to hang out with his kind of like idol in high school, Charlie Sheen's
Yeah.
character. And he just sees Rena. He's like, "You remember Romeo and Juliet?" Poor kid. And Rena's like, "What are you talking about?
He's like, why?
Are
Why are
you
you bringing that
okay?"
up? Or like when his friend bursts into the band hall. He's like, "Did you hear about Lucas? It's suicide." And they're like, what? And he's like, he joined the football team.
Yeah,
That was a
just
nice little dry humor.
so yeah, the movie brought me back to some childhood memories and stuff too, and just exploring and outside and things with my brother, especially. And it was kind of it was cool to see that. I think movies like this and Stand By Me is another good example. The Goonies is a good example too. Just kids like exploring, and of course they go on these wild adventures, but you always hope to get close to their adventures as a kid, but it never you don't find that pirate ship, and
Yeah.
uh but yeah, this one I thought was really nice or it's unique in the way that it doesn't talk about that young romance and in the way that it does.
Yeah. And you almost want it to end a little differently, but there's a certain point where it's like, Lucas, you gotta stop.
It's nice how at the end he goes back to school, so he's been injured pretty badly after the football game, and he returns to school, and everyone's kind of quiet, but he's kind of going in there like, you know, uh, feeling a little defeated, but glad he's alive, I think.
Yeah.
And he opens his locker and he pulls out a Letterman jacket. And everyone, you see a couple football players, Rena across the hall. They start clapping, and the whole school, applauds him for his effort.
For his effort, yeah. He literally
uh,
put his life on the line.
and I think the cat's out of the bag too about Lucas's home life as well, and how he's a really in some ways he doesn't have anyone. I think people
Yeah.
realize that, and he is, I guess, depraved, of that adult figure in his life, especially. And yeah, he's having a hard time, so he gets
Yeah.
that kind of respect and from his classmates, and you
Yeah.
kind
It's definitely earned. It doesn't feel tagged on or anything. They didn't carry him out of the school cheering or anything. He's just like, yay, this Letterman jacket fits. And then there's a freeze frame and it ends.
and then like Rena's like, we're we're a thing now, right?
Are we
It's
going
funny,
out now?
huh?
Are we going out now? And he's like, no, we
He's
were
like,
just
yeah.
friends, Rena.
Well, he nods. He actually nods at her, like, yeah.
Okay, I didn't catch that.
Yeah. He does a little. He acknowledges her and like her feelings for him at this point. Yeah, she saves the day again.
Yeah,
Winona Ryder saves the day again.
again.
But yeah, she was pretty. She was a band geek, and her character, and she was pretty raggedy herself. Wouldn't you
Yeah,
say?
like the way she was dressed for the dance, even I was like, okay, she's dressed, modestly. She's kind of, whatever about it. Like she's just going to the dance because that's what you do. But I kept hoping like she would, I knew the movie wasn't going to do it, but I kept hoping she was going to skip the dance and like stay with him. But
Stay with him, right?
I got the feeling from that scene that maybe he did drink that one beer and then caught the little dragonfly in the beer bottle. Of course, it's also possible he just had a bunch of beer bottles at home because of his dad. But yeah, it subverts a lot of what people think of when it comes to coming of age movies. Usually there's a bright happy ending, or your character is, you're drawn to feel completely sorry for them, or you feel all the pathos.
Like a
Here you
Rudy
kind of
or
Yeah, here you kind of
maybe.
feel like you kind of see all these different facets of the characters. Like even Cappy, I don't know if you that horrible joke he told Maggie in the parking lot. I don't know if it was supposed to be taken this way, but when he was like, "You interested in cars?" She's like, "I guess." And he's like, "You interested in wide receivers?" I was like, Jesus, I thought she was gonna laugh it off, and she's like, "I don't know, a little bit." I was like, "Wait a minute, no, that's sleazy."
What you took? I didn't catch the sleaziness about it. I just thought it was kind of dorky, but
I don't think it was supposed to be. I think I just took it that way.
oh, okay. That's pretty all right. Cheesy. That's what I thought it was. I was just like, that's real cheesy, but
It was about as cheesy as the pizza they ate.
because he was brokenhearted and all he could think about was eating pizza.
He had him there. He's like, well, don't let me ruin your depression.
I know, dude. I was like, oh, Lucas.
But that whole part was, I was like, you're kind of in the right because look, she's ditching you.
She is, yeah. He was. He wasn't all right.
And the way she's like, you're still going to the dance? He's like, yeah, I'm a party animal.
They were really mean to him because I mean, at least like Charlie Sheen's character could have at least let her Maggie go with him to the dance.
Right?
Like, come
Yeah.
on. Like
Look, the
you're
guy,
brokenhearted, so Lucas has to be brokenhearted now.
he rode a bike in a tux.
Yeah,
I mean,
and who knows how he afforded a tux,
yeah, I
where
was
he got
wondering
it.
that myself. I'm wondering if like maybe it was his dad's at some point because it was very old fashioned.
Oh
Had like
yeah.
the frills and all that.
You know, I think one thing too is that, well, I guess I think of like Lucas had strengths and in this context, he was definitely not, you know, he didn't have to put himself down for not being able to do one thing, which is play football, right? Like that could have been one where, all right, I mean, I guess what I mean is growing up, right? You realize like, hey, I can do this, or I am suitable for this, or more suitable for this than I am for that kind of thing.
Right. You gain that self awareness.
Yes, exactly. And I like that it seems like he did, I think what you're saying, it wasn't along with your point as far as the coming of age movies is sometimes it's like there's so much weight put on like these people, right? In some of these movies, like they have to do something, they have to do this or that. When it's sometimes you have to come to a realization that like you're not cut out for that.
Yeah.
And in this context, like, you know, he was definitely not cut out for football, especially with the way they had it set up, and everything. And but I liked how it made that point. It made a point, I guess, to go ahead and go that direction. And because that's part of life. You can't do everything, and you can't do everything well, even uh, or even a lot of things well. Sometimes you can do a few things, well, and do several things okay, I guess. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I think that was unique about this movie, as opposed to just saying like, uh, yeah, we're gonna change this whole thing so this person can, or we're gonna make this person almost kill themselves, basically.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
he's gonna find something. He's gonna be good at a lot of things, and he's gonna be successful in his own way. He's
Right.
gonna find his way.
Yeah. And him coming to that whole point of self actualization is, it resonates more, I think, because in a lot of these types of movies, there's usually like a familial support system. There's usually somebody there for them when they wake up in the hospital or whatever. And he had Maggie. And so to see, further reinforcing, how isolated he tends to be, um, it kind of makes you respect his journey even more, that he came to all these realizations on his own. And he had his own unique way of processing the whole romantic situation and his feeling towards Cappy and maintaining that whole persona and calling, basically being a hypocrite and calling other people phonies or superficial. That he, I mean, I hope he comes to those realizations at the end of the movie. They don't really talk about it again, but it makes you respect the movie, the path the movie takes even more, because he's done it on his own and he's had to suffer throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, and I think that was part of also just that relentless hope, and for, as a kid, that a kid can have.
Yeah, the boundless optimism.
Yeah, and I love how the movie just captures that so well.
Yeah, definitely like this movie a lot. I think it's got those 80s throwback things, but it's not a movie where you can go back like The Breakfast Club or Pretty in Pink and sit down with your friends and have a good time with it. It feels a little, I wouldn't call it a dark movie, but it is darker. It has a bit of a darker tone to it. These kids, or at least Lucas, has like some serious issues. Um, and the movie tries to lighten the load a little bit with the comedy and some of the soundtrack, but it's not a dark movie. It's just something that I feel like is a little more mature for being in that spot in the 80s where all the teen comedies were coming out. So I think it's a pretty unique uh, teen drama from that era. And but it is a movie I'd recommend it. I would say if you've never seen it, don't expect it to be leg warmers and aerobics, and do expect a synth soundtrack, but it's not one of
Mhm.
those things where you know I feel like it's not one of those 80s, it's not full of those 80s cliches that are now romanticized.
It's definitely not. And I think that the darker tones and some is what ultimately I guess it did fail. Technically, it had a budget of 6 million. The box office brought in 8.2 million.
Hmm.
Um, it was rated well overall,
About a 70%
70%. Yeah, in that
on both
area.
sides.
Yeah, it's hard to say for me too. Like it's very intimate. It's a very since
It
it
is.
is it's a little more difficult to watch in a group setting, like a movie night. But I don't. It's not that it can't be though.
Yeah,
If
just
it
maybe pair it with something a little lighter.
and prepare the group if they uh just let them know it's a little more serious and young coming of age romantic comedy or romantic drama film. I wouldn't call it a romantic comedy personally. Um,
Yeah, I'd say it's just. I think coming of age is a good genre for it. I think that's a genre.
yeah, it's probably yeah. You're right. That's a lot closer to the rom com drama.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's definitely gonna pull on the heartstrings and just it definitely it'll take you. I love the film too, especially because it just takes you away and immerses you really well. With the actors, the script writing, the music, the cinematography is really nice. It just has that nice, that kind of like home feel. It has that comfort feel to it.
yeah.
And one movie that sticks out to me a lot that I would compare it to is like a Stand by Me. Um,
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a good one. It's a good
it's
comparison.
it involves kids, definitely on the more serious level, um, and includes all their kind of mannerisms and thoughts and lives and complicated relationships and or just kind of working through their friendships together. And
Yeah, and the movie plays it straight. It doesn't have any adults coming in saying, you have plenty of time for that when you're older, kind of things. It's really kind of playing out the way I remember my high school drama playing out, which is when you're in it, you're taking it completely seriously.
yeah,
And the movie doesn't talk down to its characters. Yeah, I think that's one of the strengths. Is it's mature. I mean, as much as it can be.
I think one thing that may have been able to help this movie is a different name. Um, I think something in a little more catchier would have helped. And Lucas is just very kind of general, and I think that may have been would have kept maybe younger audiences maybe away from it to maybe family audiences. I don't know. It's just a guess of mine. I don't know what it would have been called though. It's kind of
Locust.
Lucas the Locust.
Lucas the Locust.
But yeah, I definitely recommend it. Lucas is a great film. There's other things we didn't even talk about that we didn't spoil everything. There's a lot of
there's a lot to take in the movie.
All right, so wherever you're listening to us, let us know what you think of Lucas if you've seen it yet. Share your thoughts on YouTube, and check us out on Spotify and iTunes or Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, also now Amazon. I was going to say we're also on YouTube, but that's probably where people are listening to this.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time on Film Juice.
Later.